Shilda. Well overdue for a coffee and korero. Natural living being here. So much has happened that I really felt that it was time to jump on and do a wee video. So the last video I did, I was showing you life in Aitken Street, Wellington CBD, at the Convoy 2020 protests. The Unity Village, it was beautiful, it was amazing. So proud and touched to be part of it, to be there. Was absolutely the right place for me to be as far as I'm concerned. Now, in the days since I did that video, so much happened. First and foremost, I want to talk about the amazing beauty that happened. The amazing connections I made with the most amazing people, the most varied bunch of people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. I was put forward by a very good friend of mine to go and help out, volunteer in the kitchen, which I did wholeheartedly and with so much love and excitement. It was really, really a beautiful, lovely place to be. The people I met in that kitchen, and from being in that kitchen, I feel deeply connected to in a lifelong kind of a way. I started out walking into that kitchen expecting to maybe peel a few potatoes, wash a few dishes, do whatever was needed of me. It very quickly turned into, I don't know how, me kind of being kitchen, I don't know, meal planner, fresh produce manager, coordinator, I don't know, octopus brain was my best word for it. I have what I like to call octopus brain. I can see this scattered mishmash of ingredients, whether they be physical ingredients or pieces of a puzzle, ingredients as far as people with talent or people with skills, and then from there my brain can correlate and make an overall picture really quickly out of it. So this gives me really good skills for kitchen management, for being a service lead in a really busy kitchen, for being able to manage more than myself in a really busy, stressful environment with all sorts going on. Fluctuating ingredients, fluctuating times, very little resources. We had no ovens on site, so everything was being cooked on gas rings or barbecues. It was one of the most invigorating, amazing challenges I've ever been gifted, and I absolutely loved every second of it. The other people that were involved in that whole operation, not just the kitchen, but that was where I mainly spent most of my time, so those were the people I got to spend most of my time with. And just like all of the people in every other department of that Unity Village, honestly, they are humans like you've never met before. They would go above and beyond and take the skin off their backs to help support you in what you were doing. I've never felt so accepted, acknowledged, important, appreciated in my entire life, ever. And that is something I believe that we all need to experience in our lifetimes. We all need to experience that level of connection and importance, that level of awareness and acknowledgement. I think that is what the human condition needs above all else in order to flourish and thrive. and become the great people that we truly can be. Now, many of you, of course, won't know me and won't know that for the last almost 10 years now, I've really struggled with major anxiety and seasonal depression, among other things. During that time, I've also been in some pretty horrific relationships that were, the only way you can really describe them was violent and traumatic. I've been through a shit lot. And being at that freedom village really made me feel like everything I'd been through had been for a reason. It had all come to this, and all of those skills that I learnt in dealing with that depression and dealing with that chaos in my internal life really helped me be able to step up and deal with that external chaotic environment and still show up and still be my best self and still bring all of my most optimum energy every day, no matter how tired and exhausted I was, no matter how much things kept changing on me. You know, I was able to just keep pivoting and keep feeling fueled because I had this amazing community around me. Even just the people in my street, as little as maybe I spent time with them, you know, I wasn't one of the street members who pulled my deck chair up every night and sat around in a circle chatting, because I'd been in the kitchen working all day and yelling at people, and it was or yelling in general because it was noisy, not because anyone needed yelling at. And by the time I got home, I was pretty exhausted, but how beautiful it was to just be able to lie in my van, in my bed, warm, safe, and surrounded by those people. I could hear them, you know, as I fell asleep most nights, chatting away to each other quietly. I could hear the security guards wandering my street, keeping us all safe, you know. And in the mornings, I'd get up and I'd be washing my hair, trying to get the barbecue smell out of my hair, while High Court judges came through our street and down into their parking lot, because for the majority of our time there, we actually, especially in Aitken Street, worked alongside the ADT security guys and the local security people who were manning that car park, and we let all of the judges through and we let everybody just come and go as they needed to, because we were there to occupy and make a point. We were not there to disrupt and bring disharmony. We were there to show everybody else the love and unity that we come with in our hearts. So for the majority of the time, that was my experience, was this beautiful, unified community where everybody had a place. You know, in the last few years, I've had some jobs, some really cool ones. And every time I've kind of waned in my passion for those jobs, I've had money dangled at me. Now, something I really learnt from all my trauma and my PTSD and my anxiety and my own journey with all of that is that money does not motivate me. Doing what I do motivates me. Appreciation and acknowledgement, it motivates me. Connection motivates me. Sure, I understand that money is, at this point in time, one of those things that sometimes we need to make our lives tick. And money can be a source of freedom if it means you're not being held back financially. But for me, making money the point of why I do something completely kills my passion for wanting to do something. being able to do my job, my craft, exercise my skills the way that I was able to there at Freedom Village in that kitchen, raise the nutritional vibrational value of the food on a daily basis. Every day I saw it improve. Every day I saw people improve as they ate that food. I enjoyed that more than any time I've ever been paid. I was better looked after than any time I've earned, my highest wage, because the people cared and supported us. We all supported each other deeply. And that means more to me than any hourly rate. I could have kept on doing that forever. In that way, being paid with love and unity and connection, being supported nutritionally however I needed. I just kept on asking the universe to bring us things, and lo and behold, the next day there it would be. To see that ridiculed, judged, and put down by people who were not there is beyond disgusting. And anyone who feels deeply that they should have been there and that they wanted to support, it's not too late. This is not over. This is so far from over. It's just transitioning into something else. What? I'm not entirely sure. I hope it's this new world, because that was such a beautiful example of what our world can be. If you felt like you should have stood up, then stand up now. I really deeply urge anyone who believed in our cause to stop wearing your bloody mask, first and foremost, above everything else. Because every time you walk into a shop and you put that thing on, you are hiding the truth. You are helping them convince the rest of the world, and you are hiding the truth. And I honestly want to hold everybody accountable that believes they're on our side, that still puts on a mask. Your reasoning is not reason, it's an excuse. It's not logic. You need to stop wearing the masks. Now, yes, there was all that beauty. Yes, there was all that joy. Yes, there was all that passion, love, connection, unity. But there was also this horrible underbelly of infiltration. And I say that on both sides because I believe I spoke to a lot of police throughout that whole 3 weeks of being there. And 99% of them were just like us. 99% of them were open-hearted, open-minded, beautiful human beings. That 1% that they brought in that behaved in those disgusting, vile ways towards us, as far as I'm concerned, were agitators and infiltrators, just like the Antifa group that started lighting bonfires on that fateful Tuesday. I was there. I woke up to the helicopters at 5 a.m. And in my most authentic style, I tried to lie in bed and ignore them. I tried to believe that it was scare tactics and that nothing beyond a bit of show would conspire that day. I'm okay about being wrong. I just wish I was wrong in the other direction. So as dawn broke, I got up and I put on some tights and pulled on an old Swanee that I'd picked up from our Unity op shop at some point in time when it was really cold. There was an old beach patrol high-vis jacket in the van that I also threw on. I had my glass water bottle in one pocket and my tennis ball in the other, and I set out with my dog to go for a mimi first thing in the morning. And tensions were really high. People were really on edge. The air did not feel quite right. I got back to my van, and the light had lifted, and you could clearly see the helicopters that had been circling for quite a while. And then they started bringing vans of police down. And then I started hearing screaming from Parliament grounds. And then my neighbours started rushing back into my street, telling me that they'd taken Parliament and they were stomping all over tents. And they were coming down Hill Street. So at that point, I put my 9-year-old dog back in my van with some water, pulled all the curtains so that he wouldn't fret, left some windows open so that he wouldn't get too hot. And I set off down to the Molesworth Street food tent and kitchen to find one of my co-workers, co-team, in pretty serious distress and starting to pull down everything that we'd built the night before, that I'd so meticulously labelled and organised and put away the night before. We were now frantically throwing everything into boxes and shopping trolleys, trying to save food and people's donated goods of pots and cookers and barbecues, smashing down our gazebo as fast as we could in the hope of just salvaging something. I don't know how long I was there for doing that. Time didn't matter that day. All that mattered was salvaging a tiny piece of the light that we'd created together. And everybody who was there just started helping and picking up and moving. I was so proud of how amazingly well we got so much out of Molesworth Street before the police pushed their way down, crushing women, old people, everything in their way. Having so much fun, destroying all the beauty we'd built. You could hear them cheering. And all the while within it all, I kept on hearing the bells of the Hare Krishnas and the drumming. So once we got all of our food crew out of Molesworth Street and kind of down to the area where Papa Hone's tent had been, we thought we could consolidate all the food together and maybe that could be a stronghold. I realised it had probably been much longer than I was aware, so I rushed back to my van in Aitken Street. Not my van actually, my lovely mechanic's van in Aitken Street to check on my dog. At that point in time, I had already sat on the ground in Aitken Street before moving the food tent as the police swept up the street around me, and I sat on the ground and sang. Then I went away and I moved as much as I could, and when I came back, they were now coming back down from the corner of Hill and Aitken where the toilets were, and they were sweeping back through, trying to get us to leave. Now, not only had my van been jacked up on blocks so that it was nice and flat by my neighbour, but it also had my dog inside it, the van, sorry, and it also had my dog inside it, who's 9 years old. And as beautifully fit and healthy as he is, he did not need to be in the thick of the fray. I did not want him out. There was tear gas and pepper spray in the air. I felt like the best place for him was to stay inside. Also, I didn't want to risk him defending me and them having to treat him badly if he did that. So I chose to leave my dog in the van. But I could not leave the van, because of that, because my baby, as far as I was concerned, was inside and he would be upset. So I sat on the ground cross-legged in front of the side door of the van, and I hooked my arms up underneath and I gripped hold of that chassis and I sang. And I politely refused to move. And I continued to sing as loudly as I could, until the police line approached me and came toe to toe with me, at which point they flipped me over onto my face, elbowed me in the back, pressed me into the pavement. I was struggling to get off the glass water bottle that was still in my pocket and screaming at them to remove it before it smashed into my thigh. Because of course they couldn't hear what I was saying because my face was being squashed into the pavement. They thought that I was struggling and resisting arrest. So as I was twisting one way, I was being forced back the other way. They were purposefully putting handcuffs on me on the wrong angle. One went on fine, the other one was on purpose being put on a painful angle across my bone instead of around it. Thankfully, there was a young woman in the group of police while all of this was happening to me. I'm pretty sure I was one of the first arrested. And she was getting in the ear of the arresting officer and asking him why he was being so rough with me because I wasn't resisting. She was the one who made him readjust the handcuffs. She was the one who pulled the glass bottle out of my pocket. She was the one who actually didn't leave my side until I got into the paddy wagon. And I felt it was because she didn't trust her own colleagues to behave with the right kind of dignity and respect in that moment. She could see that they were enjoying this, and she could see that what they were doing was inappropriate and unnecessary. I'm so grateful for her. I wish I knew your name. Thank you for not leaving my side. Thank you for escorting me all the way to the doors of that paddy wagon, knowing that without you I was left at the mercy of psychopaths and narcissists. The police at the station were a whole different breed of people. They were nothing like those troops on the front line who were reveling and cheering like it was some kind of rugby game. The cells were not fun, they were not pretty. But that's the least of my traumas, really. Being arrested was difficult. But nowhere near as difficult as some of the other instances I've faced in my life. I've been manhandled and abused in so many relationships that having the police do it really was no big deal. I think I was released about 2:45 that afternoon. And as I received my personal belongings back, I put my shoes back on and that high-vis yellow jacket, orange jacket. I started walking out of that station, turned on my phone to find so many messages and calls from my crew, from my village, from my family, looking for me, worried about me, trying to find out if I was okay. And amongst all of that noise and chaos, there was still so much love. And as I was scrolling through and looking at all my missed calls, my phone rang. And my mechanic was on the other end. The van being registered under his partner's name, she had gotten a call saying that her dog was in the pound and her van had been impounded. And before I was even released from custody, he'd driven over an hour into town and was less than a block away to pick me up and go and spring my dog from dog jail. Now, we got to the pound before the animal control even turned up with my dog. And as soon as we got him in the car, the first thing we did was go straight back to Molesworth Street and find my crew. We pretty much ran from Thorndon New World, where we parked, back down the outskirts, straight up Kate Shepherd, straight past all those policemen who were still standing there as if it was a normal day, into the screaming of people just being brutalized. My best friend had dropped her kids off with their dad and had come straight in. And in the time that I was in custody, she'd managed to be on the front line, pepper sprayed. Trying to defend the beauty that we'd built. Trying to defend our freedoms. Trying to fight for the future of our country. And as I walked back in, the destruction and the ugliness that the police had created was mind-blowing. That felt like a disease. It felt like watching cancer. At that point, I ended up down the bottom of the gates where all of the equipment for all of the food and medical tents had been dragged. And we were trying to get a higher chiller out. So we started clearing the gates and moving everything across the road into the bus station. Some of my crew from off-site had turned up with vans and trucks for us to start loading equipment into. We filled up the chiller trailer, about 4 or 5 of us, and dragged it across the street in hope that the van or the truck or the ute or whatever would come and pick it up soon. We did this just after the fires started. Now I can tell you straight from my heart that nobody that built that beauty started those fires. Nobody that was part of construction lit anything. All of the people I knew that built things at that village, all of the plumbers, the builders, the chefs, the workers, were all in there trying to remove gas bottles, trying to remove cans of food that were being used as projectiles at that point. We were trying to save and salvage. There was no way we were about to set our Unity village on fire. That was done by aggressors. It's taken me 4 days to be able to collect myself again, to feel recovered enough to have this conversation. As far as I'm concerned, the trauma that was already in my life was so insurmountable that dealing with this kind of trauma was a given. There was no way in hell, after giving up what I have, fighting for what I've been fighting for the last 10 years of my life, was I going to stand on the sidelines and watch as other people created this amazing Unity village, while other people stood for my freedoms? No way. Being there was not a choice. It was part of my humanity. I'm not sure what the next step is, but being there will not be a choice either. This is far from over as far as I can see. The seeds of our new world have been planted, but we have got a lot of tending and nourishing to go before we'll see the fruits of those labours. I urge you all, get up, stand up, help us. Help us spread Unity Village nationwide, worldwide. It's the only way for humanity to heal, to stop this evil, psychopathic oppression of the human nature and human spirit of cooperation, unity, connection, and love. Moving forward from here, I've got to find a way to make this van my own. Technically, it's still my mechanics at this point. I've got to find a way to navigate through mediation and family courts, which is a complete and utter farce, and everything I'm fighting against. If you support any of what I'm saying, any of what I've said, then show up. However that is in your world. We all have different ways of showing up. But show up. Support. Stop wearing your masks. Don't make it all in vain. This is only the beginning. What side of history are you on? No matter what side of history you're on and how you show up, remember first and foremost to love yourself. Because without loving yourselves, we can't stand up for what's right. And once we love ourselves, we can see that every other being on this planet is just an extension and a different expression of the same divine energy that creates us. So loving each other becomes a given too. And once you realize those two things, you'll understand that I love you.